broken rib or two, and he certainly was going to be painfully aware of his sins every time he inhaled or exhaled for at least a week. Every single bruise and broken bone is deserved. If his people had been harboring the notion that there was anything soft about Baron Valdemar, well, they'd just been disabused of that notion. Word would get around quickly. He hadn't exactly been looking for an excuse to burn off some of the pent-up emotions from his experiences at court and the destruction of the capital, but here it was. He wanted the blackguard to get up and come at him, while at the same time he didn't. The intensity of his fury just moments ago subsided slightly. His rage slammed into the full force of his conscience, and rage broke against it. But I damned well won't be a tyrant. I want to be better than that. I want us all to be better than that. His momentary loss of control made him just a little ashamed of himself. But just a little. When the fool on the ground did nothing but wheeze and moan, Cordus stepped back and motioned to the 2 men of his guard, that's what they were calling the loose policing military group he'd put together, Valdemar's guard, to come and pick the man up. "Should we take him to a healer, Baron?" asked the one who had once been one of his gamekeepers, a tall and weather-beaten man, who frankly looked as if he'd be more than willing to add his own beating to the one Cordus had doled out, if Cordus asked him to. "Just long enough to make sure he's not dying today," Cordus said, his words coming out sounding harsh and angry. Well, he was still angry, and he roared the words so all present could hear him. "Splints and bandages are all he gets. No herbs, no healing. And if he wants something to dull the pain, he'll have to forage it himself. No help allowed." While the 2 of them secured the creep, and it did not escape Cordus that the gamekeeper ran his hands expertly over the fellow's ribs before forcing his hands behind him and trussing his wrists together, Cordus turned away from the miscreant and his keepers to address the little crowd that had gathered while he had been occupied with meting out rough justice, and got angry all over again, because the first thing his eyes lit on was the broken doll that the fool had been abusing and torturing for his own amusement. The torture hadn't gone on long before Cordus and his men had come racing up to the little secluded spot among the thickets of barberry bushes the bastard had chosen to conceal what he was doing. But it had been enough time that the doll's arms and legs were broken in 4 places, and there was no telling what other damage had been done that was covered up by the padding and cloth. The sledgehammer the fool had been using lay beside the doll, where he'd dropped it after Cordus tackled him. The dolls looked like oversized children's playthings, but they had been the backbone of the imperial palace servant structure, and had replaced most humans in those functions years ago. Cordus wasn't sure how long ago that had been, long after his days as a hostage at any rate, because they hadn't been visibly performing those functions when he'd been held in the palace. Maybe the dolls were only for the elite then. The hostages were not exactly elite. Oh, of course, an important part of having prisoners is enjoying their suffering, so there'd be humans for that suffering, not dolls that don't display suffering. Cruelty was the imperial way, and I was raised imperial. It's in me. I resent that it is, but I resent keeping it pushed down all the time, too. I can't let it out long. I can't let the Empire rule me. I won't. I won't be like them. I can do this and not be like them. As he lost the blinding clarity of rage, he felt his stomach churning, heard the murmurs of the crowd he had gathered, and took a moment to glance up into the tree branches overhead. His knuckles ached dully, but all the physical labor he'd done the past few moons had certainly had an effect. He wasn't in the least winded, nor did he feel as if he'd just pounded someone to within an inch of his life. He just felt bruised in soul and fists. He lost his focus on everything for a moment. It may have been the sizzling pain from his hands that incited it, or the shivers, part of the come-down from adrenaline, but Cordus's mind was racing. His heart beat rapidly. His skin felt as if it was wet and stretched.